Welcome back, folks. Today I'm going to show you how I prepare my delicious oxtail stew. First, I'm going to get about 2.5 to 3 pounds of oxtails, and I combine a mixture of vinegar and salt, and I give them a light scrub, making sure there's not any bone debris from the butcher, and I just scrub them until I get rid of all that bloody water. And I do this about 2 or 3 times until my water runs clear, just like so. Next, let's go to seasoning. I'm going to add the ingredients in the description, but I use some basic salt, some pepper, and the ingredients are going to pop up on the screen as I go through and do this. I provided some basic measurements to start the process, but basically this is really seasoning to taste. This next ingredient is optional. It's some Sazon Goya. I added to the menu for color and a little bit of flavor profile, but this is not authentic Jamaican. So this is optional. Go ahead and give everything a nice stir to combine all of your ingredients. Next, we're going to add some Worcestershire sauce, just enough to coat just about all of the oxtails. Don't really need a lot, but it adds a nice flavor. This is some browning. It's used for color. I'm going to add about a full capful to the mix. Now let's go ahead and give everything a good stir to make sure everything is well coated. I'm going to use for my vegetables some peppers, one medium onion, 2 to 3 cloves of garlic, and some green onions. And I'm going to add half of the mixture to my oxtails now, and I'm going to reserve the remaining half for later in the cooking process. Once you add your vegetables, go ahead and give everything a stir, and you can cover and marinate this for 46 hours if you like, but you can also go to the next step if you want to. And right here, to a very hot skillet, I'm adding some brown sugar until it caramelizes like it looks here. This is going to give my oxtail some good color as I brown it off. Once it gets really hot, go ahead and add your oxtails. This pan is going to be very, very hot at this point to caramelize that brown sugar. So make sure to be very careful not to burn yourself doing this step. Be sure to cover your oxtail at this point. That added liquid generated by covering it will allow your oxtails and that browning not to burn. You want to make sure you cook them about 3 to 5 minutes to get a color looking like this. And you might want to, because they're awkward shape, at some point stand them on their sides to make sure each side is browning evenly. After your oxtails are browned on each side, take and add about 1 cup, enough liquid water. I'm going to use some beef broth here to your pan. I'm going to simmer this for about 15 minutes just to build in more flavor and deglaze that pan. After 15 minutes, I'll just take and move my oxtails to a larger pot for the rest of the cooking process. Here I'm adding about one heaping tablespoon of tomato paste. Again, this will help me add an additional layer of flavor and also, deglaze that pan. I'm just going to add that right to those oxtails. Next, I'm adding the vegetables that we chopped and the marinade that the oxtail was in. I'm adding that back to the pan in order to get those flavors. At this point, you want to add you some beef broth. I'm using the reduced sodium. Add you enough beef broth to just cover the oxtails. Next, I'm just going to wake up the flavor by re-seasoning this water with this broth with the same ingredients, same dry seasons I used earlier. Only thing I'm doing is I'm going to omit salt at this process because I'm using some beef broth that's salty in flavor, and I'm also going to be adding a bay leaf. Here, I'm going to be adding 1 can of diced tomatoes. Now at this 2.5 hour mark, all I'm basically doing is doing a visual check just to see how far my tenderness is, and this will dictate how long I'm going to allow them to cook and when I add my additional seasons. At the 3 hour mark, I take and added 1 tablespoon of better than bouillon chicken broth. You can use a chicken bouillon cube here if you want. And these next ingredients are optional. I didn't use a Scotch bonnet or a habanero pepper, so here I'm just going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper. Use one that you choose. I use Slap Your Mama. And also I'm going to add a couple of squirts of Frank's hot sauce. Again, this is an optional method. Also at this point, I'm going to be adding 1 cup of sliced carrots. I use canned because we're so late in the cooking process, but you can feel free to use fresh. Just add them a little bit earlier in the cooking process. And here is that remaining chopped vegetables that we reserved in the beginning. Adding these at this point will give our whole stew more of texture, as those first vegetables have already broken down. To thicken my stew, I'm going to be using 1 can of butter beans. I'm going to take these butter beans, I'm going to mash them into a paste. This is my alternative to using cornstarch, which can take away from the flavor. Here at the 3.5 hour mark, I'm going to choose one of the larger oxtails, and I'm going to give it a fork test to see how much longer I want to cook these before I add my paste. Using one of the larger oxtails and seeing how it comes from the bone is a good sign of how tender they're really going to be. These feel really good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and add this back to the pot. I'm going to go ahead and add my paste to it. And I'm going to allow this paste of butter beans to cook into this stew. It adds a really good flavor, as butter beans is traditional in Jamaican cooking anyway, and it's going to really thicken this up. Here's a pro tip though. At this point, if you're going to leave your lid half cracked, don't cover it completely all the way. That'll reduce the amount of additional moisture getting into it and allow your stew to really thicken up. Last and final step, go ahead and remove that bay leaf, as that's pretty bitter, and then plate up. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this recipe. It's a family and fan favorite, especially during the cold winter months. If you did enjoy it, I would invite you to please like and subscribe this video and enjoy. I will see you on the next video. Take care.